What a lovely watch this film was. A wholesome, warm tale of two teenagers going to meet their long-lost grandparents to spend a week of quality time together. Let me introduce you to them. This is Pop Pop, such a nice bloke they named him twice. Yeah, I'm going to refer to him as Grandpa for this video because Pop Pop is just a bit cringe really, isn't it? A strong, wise, resilient man whose wisdom graces everyone it touches. And this is Nana. Yeah, she's normal, isn't she? So let's talk about The Visit, released in 2015 and directed by none other than M. Night Shyamalan. It's safe to say that I had high expectations when I watched this one in the cinema, and it's fair to say that M. Night has had his fingers well and truly on the pulse in his previous entries in the genre. Many regard The Sixth Sense as his standout film, but I think 2016's Split runs it pretty close in my personal opinion. The Visit brings an interesting style to the table, employing a documentary narrative along with shaky cam techniques. I must admit I'm a big fan of this style of filmmaking as long as it stays away from the found footage side of things, which can often feel like a cluster of nonsense. I'm looking at you, Cloverfield, and Paranormal Activity. This forced perspective brings an artistic touch to the film which is well received, and more importantly, there's a reason why it's shot like this, and we'll get into that. As with all of our Nightmare Fuels, there will be major spoilers ahead, so you have been warned. Our protagonists are Becca and Tyler, two siblings who are sent to stay with their long-lost grandparents for a week while their mother goes on a relaxing vacation with a new partner. Mother and the grandparents have been estranged for many decades since having a family dispute. She tells them even though she hasn't talked to them in years, she knows that they're nice and they still even volunteer at a local children's hospital. As aspiring directors themselves, Becca and Tyler take along the lens to capture such a precious moment and turn it into a documentary for their mother. We literally get taken on this journey with the teens, meeting their close relatives for the first time in a first-person narrative of their isolated Pennsylvania farmhouse. However, everything really isn't fine and dandy with Nana and Grandpa, and they have a dark secret which begins to unravel very quickly. The first instance of this happens when Becca and Tyler first arrive. In the typical teenage fashion, they make their own fun and they start a game of hide and seek underneath the house in the crawl space. Becca speaks to the camera before flipping it round to see Nana come bounding towards her, excitedly shouting, "Here I come!" And then it happens again. She's just lurking in the background, hunched over like one of the witches of Crookbat Bog, and she chases them out of the crawl space, but just laughs it off like it's nothing. It's one of those what the hell moments where teens probably have conflicting emotions. Nana doesn't fully commit to being insane here. It's just passed off like she's a good sport and having fun. It's a really solid but unsettling introduction to the character. Unsurprisingly, the majority of nightmare fuel in this film takes place at night, and it happens very quickly and straight after Becca and Tyler go to bed. Barely there for a few hours, Becca records her Nana roaming around the house, vomiting all over the floor, and at roughly the same time each subsequent evening, Nana's out of her bed doing something equally as bizarre each night. After the first evening, Becca and Tyler take a more cautious approach when they start to hear noises at night. What I love here is how the tension is built behind the door, not once it's already been opened. You're not fed a subpar jump scare here, but all of the scare factor is completely visual once the door's open. Whether it's crawling around the floor on her hands and knees or moaning and banging on the cabinets and doors, look at the state of this. It's how outlandish Nana's actions are, which really encapsulate the nightmare feel. But Grandpa explains this away by blaming it on sundowning, which is actually a medical condition affecting dementia patients. I've always had a thing for scary old ladies, obviously not in a sexual way, but there's just something about them which I find so creepy. I was always infatuated with witches as a child, which has probably fed this disposition into my adulthood. To further illustrate this, take a look at Connor's Nightmare Fuel video on Snow White and how the hag is presented in that. A further example would be the unintentional jump scare in Enchanted with that hag on the balcony. Animated, real life, they're all just as bad as each other, man. I've always wondered what makes old women so scary, and after researching the topic, it seems like the general consensus for the notion lies with two reasons. One, in fairy tales, they are often the ones who have the power to wield and conjure magic, giving them that element of control over mortals. And this feeds into the second reason, which is a woman is often the person who has the most power over a child's life, which then tends to carry threat wet when they look absolutely ghastly. To support this point, there's a nod to the fairy tale Hansel and Gretel in the film, where Gretel manages to trick the witch into looking into the oven before pushing her inside. We get a reversal of this not once, but twice in the film. The first time, M. Night relies on the audience's familiarity with the tale to preempt the worst case scenario. We get a dose of nightmare fuel here, or a taster, if you like, where we're anticipating something bad's about to happen. Nana says, "Could you clean the oven?" Yeah. No bother, Nana. Aye. Could you get inside? What? Excuse me? Anyway, Becca crawls inside the oven and thank the Lord it's just a red herring. But this is cranked up even further in a subsequent scene. And in this scene, we're aware as an audience about the twist that happens, which I'll get onto a little bit later. But Nana asks Becca to get in the oven again, and Becca obliges to not arouse any suspicion that Tyler and her know Nana and Grandpa's secret. She crawls in the oven, and Nana closes the door behind her. All we're waiting for is for her to jam the door shut, twist the knobs to 200 degrees, and Becca's getting cooked alive. But no, she innocently grabs a tablecloth and buffs up the glass window instead, and then lets her out. It's such intelligent filmmaking, and it plays on the fact that elderly people have tendencies to be like this sometimes. Obviously not put someone in an oven, but they'll innocently do or ask something that's a little bit wacky. And this forms a perfect parallel to the fact that we know she's absolutely insane. After careful deliberation over the ethics of planting a hidden camera, Tyler manages to get Becca to concede in order to find out what's truly going on with Nana, and it amounts to possibly the scariest moment of the film for me. We see Nana opening and closing doors and sniffing about the kitchen like a gammy Yorkshire Terrier, and then she crawls all incognito under the camera, jumps up and growls at it, and then steals it. After reviewing this footage, this causes Becca and Tyler to make an intelligent decision, which is rare for teenagers in horror, and Skype their mother to tell her to come back and pick them up immediately. And this is where you get absolutely slapped with this god tier twist. Tyler picks up the laptop and points it out the window at Nana and Grandpa, and the mother says, "You need to listen to me now. Those aren't your grandparents. Have you been staying with them the whole time?" Holy moly, that revelation proper sent shivers down my back when I first watched this. When you invest time in someone, you sleep in their house, share private details about your life, you form a connection with them, and it turns out that they're not your relatives at all. They've just pretended to be. And your grandparents are actually in a box in the basement, bludgeoned to death with a hammer. But The Visit doesn't draw its final curtain before Shyamalan hits us with another classic childhood fear, the monster under the bed scene. The climax sees a showdown between Becca and Nana in one of the upstairs bedrooms after Grandpa catches her discovering her actual grandparents' corpses in the basement. She gets dragged up to the bedroom and locked inside with this absolute monster. Nana scuttles under the bed, then the only lighting is the flash of Becca's camera beaten down on her withered, veiny forearms. She then proceeds to take the role of a ghost in a white sheet before getting on top of Becca and getting right in her grill. The best way I can describe this scene is it's like the physical embodiment of sleep paralysis, really. It's utterly shivering to watch. As far as Grandpa, well, he probably doesn't qualify as nightmare fuel in my book, but he does rub his incontinence diapers on Tyler's face, who is a germaphobe, but it's just a bit of banter really, isn't it? So there you have it, my friends. The Visit is nightmare fuel. Let me know down in the comments what you thought of the film. What was your favourite scene? Did you have any particular difficult moments which have stayed with you up until this day? Let me know all your thoughts and feelings down below. I've been your host Hugh from Unleash the Ghouls, and I'll see you later.